What's going on, guys? Welcome back. I'm Ryan and I'm here with another video. So 8 months ago we filmed a card shop tour. I was just in business for just a couple months at that point. I bought the store in May of last year and I recorded a video late 2019, and I wanted to use that as a showcase for where I had started to where I was then, but also as a spot to check back on later, and that's kind of what we're going to do here as well. So again, almost a year ago when we created this first video, the shop looked a lot different from when it did on day one when we bought it in May, but now it looks a whole lot different than when it did in November when we recorded last time. So we're going to just take you guys through the shop and what it looks like today, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what's changed in the last couple months. So the first thing you'll notice right away is the showcase we're standing on. That was one thing I pointed out in the last videos, was the showcases I started with and I had in that video were inherited. So these showcases were purchased very end of last year, so right after that video had released. They're all matching, they're nice. We actually found them on Facebook from someone who had a retail space at some point and ended up closing it and wanted to get rid of them. So they're uniform, they look much nicer. You'll also see when you look in the showcases, there's a lot more inventory out than we had before. Obviously, the showcases originally were just one tier or just one level, so you could only get 50 cards out in a showcase. While we don't have as much out as we might like at this point, we're still working on that. You know, it's a day at a time there. There's still a lot more out to begin with. So we've got baseball, basketball, football, soccer, hockey, and then an entire showcase of Ohio State stuff. Obviously, we sell a lot of stuff here in Columbus of the Buckeyes, so an entire showcase. That's really the first major change at this point, is going to be the showcases. Gives us a lot more space, a lot more ability to put stuff out, and they look way nicer than the first ones ever did. You'll also notice that when we opened, or in the last video, this shelving was, it was a plastic shelf and it was strictly quarter and dollar cards, right? Served its purpose, it worked out well, that's what we had at the time. But we ended up actually finding these cubes. These work really well. They hold 4-row boxes perfectly. But we've basically fallen in love with this kind of design because it fits so much of what we sell. So this is gonna be just kind of a hodgepodge of stuff. This will rotate pretty consistently, just putting different stuff out. This is kind of like the, if we ever needed the space, we have this kind of space here. It sells a lot of our retail stuff. We do sell a good amount of retail, as you'll see in a second. Hobby boxes have exploded in price. Obviously, COVID did a lot to that. As companies shut down, supply decreased, demand increased. So retail is really big. We do sell a lot of it. It's a lot more affordable option for a consumer to rip than a $900 box of Prism Choice basketball that only has 8 cards in it. Again, a lot of our retail is displayed here. 8x10 autographs, some of the Buckeyes we had in for a signing earlier this year. CardCollector2 hats, just sets, different stuff like that. Then moving over here, this is where we keep a lot of our like signed jerseys. So we don't keep a ton of memorabilia in here. We would like to keep more in, but we just don't have the space. So this works out well. I just signed jerseys, guys like De'Aaron Fox, Calvin Ridley, Mike Ditka, etc. But a good way to put out jerseys without taking up a bunch of wall space. Again, don't sell a ton of memorabilia, but it adds a nice touch to the shop. Then obviously our upcoming release calendar. One thing you'll notice in the original video is we had a $25 weekly store credit drawing. So we don't do that. That creates more touch points for customers with pens and drawings and tickets and stuff like that. So we hope to bring that back at some point, but at the moment it's not currently going on. So this is just basically used for all of our upcoming releases. We try to be 1 to 2 months out in terms of product releases. It needs updated, but you kind of get the idea of what's there and what's being used for. And then this is by far our biggest addition and our biggest modification to the shop from where we were back in November of last year when we recorded the card shop tour. You'll notice a lot more open in here, and that's really what we wanted. We only have so much square footage in here. It's not very big. If you've ever been here, you'll definitely attest to that. But we had 2 tables originally, right? One went from here to the wall, and then the other one went from the wall to about here. And then we had a plastic table in the middle, or on the edge here, that had your junk dollar stuff, right? It was cheap stuff, cheap hacks, etc. But we quickly realized with the lack of space we have here, love the location, love everything about the store, but the space obviously certainly would prefer more. What we realized was we can't go out, we have to go up. And this is where that comes into play. As you can see, they hold 4-row boxes perfectly. So it allows us to get so much more inventory out in the same amount of space rather than going out. We were able to get roughly 28 4-row boxes. So it allows us to get so much more space. For now, I mean, trying to get as much out as we can. This works a lot better. Quarter cards, dime cards, dollar cards, sticker sale. This is something we added recently. It's like 2 5s, $10 cards. So again, just adds a lot more of a selection in the same amount of space, you know, minus this right here. So it makes it more open while adding more cards out for sale. Also have some memorabilia out. Again, don't really keep a ton of it, but if we've got room to put it out, we certainly will. Kyler, some mini helmets, etc. Some 8x10s and photos over here. 16x20s, etc. And then again, Pokemon, we talked about that in the first video. Wanted to keep some Pokemon in the shop for anyone looking for it. We don't have a ton, we don't update it regularly, but at least allows that to be an option if someone is looking for it. Again, this was definitely the biggest change in the shop in that time period. While we did do a lot, this was one of the things we were really excited about, as it opens up more space and adds the ability to put a lot more cards out for sale. So that was really helpful. Again, kind of moving on, a lot of this will look very similar, except it's just going to be a little bit more of everything. So we had an Eddie George jersey there that ended up selling. So we added some signed photos. Got this in a transaction recently. Don't plan on selling that, just kind of a cool shop piece. We've got the Cameron Hayward Upper Deck Letterman set spelled out. Again, we talked about this before. This used to be like blaster boxes and such, but found it to be a good opportunity to put a bunch of $1 packs out. Again, same as before, $1 each, 8 for 5. Sell a lot of this kind of stuff. It's just an affordable way to rip, and it's a big nostalgia thing for collectors that used to rip this stuff back in the day. Again, without breaking the bank, you can rip, you know, lots of cards for a few bucks. So again, just different setup there. And then as normal, again, if you watch the previous video, the original, you'll notice like we didn't have a lot of signs out. This was a little bit more messy. Now everything's labeled. So graded cards, MLB, NFL, Buckeyes, NBA, NHL, vintage, blowout stuff, etc. So a lot more organized. As we've hired more employees, we've been able to pay a little bit more attention to detail and things like that. Get a little bit more organized as much as possible, so that's kind of where we're at there. In terms of the original video, this is definitely something I still wish I had, and that would be the supplies. COVID obviously got a lot of people in cards, right? And that led to a massive shortage on a lot of supplies. There are a lot of things we cannot get. 55-point top loaders, 75-point top loaders, 100-point top loaders, card saver ones, right? If you're in the game, you understand that a lot of these things have become a lot more challenging to get. So while we do still have top loaders, magnetics, soft sleeves, those things have been dwindling and restocks have become much more difficult to get. Still have cardboard, still have a good amount of stuff. Unfortunately, just don't have, you know, quite the volume as we did before and the ability to reorder quite like we did, but hopefully, you know, we'll get to the point someday when we can get those things back in stock and continue to increase the supply we have there. This is also a newest addition. We had a bunch of full-size helmets come in and just figured this would be a great way to display some stuff without inconveniencing customers in terms of, it doesn't stand out, you know, 6 feet. It just takes up this little section right here, which basically fits perfectly with the wall. So not really an inconvenience to any customer. That was our goal. We don't want to, you know, remove space for customers. So you've got signed baseball, signed Shaq photo, Nick Chubb helmet, Nick Chubb ball, Largent, and then Gurley, Eric Dickerson duel. So add some cool memorabilia pieces. Looks nice, great eye catcher when you come in. But that was a recent addition as well. And then as always, we talk about this. We want to be able to offer packs. So we've got a little bit of everything. You got baseball, basketball, football, hockey, Pokemon, wrestling. May not be there every time you come in, but we do try to rotate those pretty consistently. Also, you'll notice this, a lot of older wax. This has become really big for us in the hobby. Again, as we talked about earlier with retail, the hobby has gotten so expensive. Buying newer hobby box is, you know, I watched the original video for the card shop tour we did then, and, you know, Prism Football was on the shelf at $209.99 at the time, and that was probably right at market. And they're $1,100 a box now. So I mean, the hobby has changed so much. Since we recorded the video last time, we found out that a lot of this more affordable wax from maybe not the best year. It's not 2017, it's not 2018, it's not the last 2 or 3 years, but a couple years older where you can still pull some key guys. Makes it a lot more affordable and just as enjoyable ripping packs and stuff like that. So that has been a nice addition. Again, baseball, basketball, football. We do have Mosaic, Prism, different baseball, Pokemon Hidden Phaetons, Darkness Ablaze packs, a little bit of everything. We try to offer as much as possible. Obviously limited with the space, but that is something we try to keep in stock. So last thing I want to show you guys before we wrap up this video. Again, if you noticed last time I told you it was a mess back here. That hasn't changed, right? As the amount of inventory we get in fluctuates, and it can get pretty extreme. If you guys watch our content on YouTube, we show a lot of our pickup. It can be a lot at times. Again, going back to the cubes have worked out very well for us. I would recommend them to anyone in cards looking to get more organized. The 4-row boxes fit perfectly. So as things come in, we can put dollar cards in, we can put quarter cards in, we can put dime cards in as they come. But this has allowed us to get more organized than before. Previously, we had a table on the ground. There was boxes piled up on the floor. This at least allows us to put it somewhere and be able to put things in different cubes and be a little bit more organized. I know it doesn't look organized now. It's not always this bad, and sometimes it's worse. But again, these cubes have really allowed us to put more back here as we've grown. And then another thing we're extremely proud of is the amount of wax we have out to offer. First video, times were definitely different for us back in November. But as we've been able to grow and expand, we've been able to put a lot more out. Definitely try to keep as much in here as we can. Obviously, box prices fluctuate so much. Prices move a lot. Basketball has become so expensive. A lot more of that breaks for us in breaks. But again, we just try to keep a little bit of everything from soccer, hockey, baseball, to basketball and football as well. Again, shelving looking a lot better than it did before. That was something we did since the first video. Is the shelves were repainted, the slat wall was repainted, the ceiling was painted white to kind of brighten it up in here. So that is something we'll notice as well. But again, just got a lot more organized, a lot more out for sale. Try to open it up a little bit more. But yeah, just really enjoying it now. Obviously, hobby is growing, a lot of attention on it. With some of these big sales, some big people getting into the game now. So really excited to be here. Really appreciate everyone's continued support. And that's the thing, this will be fun to look back on a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, as we've done, 8, 9 months ago from when that first video came out. We've already grown so much in that time period. Hopefully it continues, and we can continue to create these videos and showcase where we started to where we're at now, and give you guys an updated look at where we are. So that is all I got for this video. I will see you guys in the next one.